Be recorded. We record our meetings routinely for educational purposes and also sometimes to share some spectacular moments as they may arrive. Let's see, is that? Yeah, the recording should be going. So welcome to Online Presenters Toastmasters. This is a club that meets online and also focuses specifically on learning skills for better webinars and online events. We are actually very shortly going to be doing a mini webinar contest on April 16th. We have drafted 3 celebrity judges to help us judge the contest and give our contestants a little bit of feedback afterwards. We have Roger Corville, who's an expert on webinar presentations. He was our first guest workshop speaker. Cheryl Rausch, who you see on the right, is also very well known in the Toastmasters world, and she came and gave us a workshop on how to understand your audience. The gentleman in the middle, Nick, is a professional contact of mine who does, he says he's done something like 1,000 webinars across his career. He does technology marketing. So hope to get some good feedback from for our contestants from them. We want to thank RingCentral for allowing us to use the RingCentral meetings platform at no cost. RingCentral is best known as a internet phone service. They also make collaboration tools, and RingCentral Meetings is bundled with all those things and works with all those things. And they did want me to let you know that the cloud is winning in business communications and RingCentral is winning in the cloud. We do encourage you to use a headset or earbuds and to mute your mic when it's not your turn. Audio on these calls can be one of the biggest challenges. And so from time to time, we will mute everybody except the active speaker. But you can also unmute yourself with the control in the lower left-hand corner of your screen if you do need to speak up. We encourage you to know also that there are a couple of different modes for the video. You can either go into the gallery mode where you see everybody, or the active speaker mode where you see the presenter. So usually when somebody starts to speak and it's their featured presentation, you might want to go into the active speaker mode. There is also an important trick about pinning the video if you are the speaker, so that particularly so you can see the feed from the timer. So otherwise they're holding up green, yellow, and red, and you have no idea because you've lost track of their video feed. So pinning that video will help you keep track of the person who is timing. For those of you who are guests, if you are interested in becoming a member, we do ask you to come to at least 2 meetings as a guest so you have an idea of what you're getting into. This is an advanced club. It's not for absolute beginners. However, even if you don't meet our default membership requirement, we have a mechanism for voting people in if we think they'd be a good addition to the club. With that, it is showtime. I'm going to turn this meeting over to our Toastmaster of the day, Scott Johnston, who's going to lead us through a great meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's great to be here. It's great to be Toastmaster of the day. And welcome to the members and welcome to our 3 guests, Rachel, Gary, and Michael. I hope you all had a great Easter. If you do celebrate Easter, I hope you had a great Easter, and it's great to see you on board tonight. David, just before I carry on, I just want to clarify the evaluators for the speakers, since Christian Lois told me that she's not evaluating. So, David, are you evaluating Dagmara?
Actually, I believe I'm evaluating. George Marshall sent me his. George
Marshall, okay. Jim Barber, I was hoping that you might be able to step back into your evaluation role and do George Marshall or do Dagmara for us.
I'll be happy to.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, as you know, all meetings just don't. Yes, Lois.
Scott, Graham is going to do a speech. He's going to be the 3rd speaker, so I'm going to evaluate Graham.
Okay, thank you very much, Lois. Well organised, like a well-oiled machine. As you know, meetings just don't happen. There's a list of people that fill in very important roles to make this meeting run so smoothly. and perform the quality that online we're used to online presenters. So to introduce my helpers, we have an R counter. John, would you like to just tell us what you'll be doing?
Yes, I will be observing what are known as, especially for today's meeting, Easter speech fillers. Those are the words like ahs and ums and other words that we utter unwillingly. And instead of trying to compose ourselves, we tend to use those speech fillers. So I will be observing our speakers, prepared speakers, our table topics speakers, our evaluators, and whoever else speaks online.
Thank you very much indeed, John. Our next helper is the timer. Lois, give us some rundown on what you'll be doing.
That's going to be Jim Gould.
Jim Gould's doing, all right, okay.
Role.
Jim.
We've changed roles behind your back.
Oh, confusing. Okay, Jim, let us know what you're going to be doing.
All right. Well, I'll be handling the lights. I'll be using the Toastmasters app actually to do the timing. It's just a wonderful tool. If you don't know about it, you should get it. And it has all of us in there already. So I just have to pick and choose and push buttons and everything works well. I'll turn green lights on, I'll turn yellow lights on, and I'll turn red lights on at the appropriate times during the speeches. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Jim. We know all about the timing now. Thank you very much. Our grammarian tonight is Mike Walsh. Mike, would you like to let us know what you'll be doing tonight?
Sure. As the grammarian, I'll be listening to interesting word choices and also things that perhaps may need some improvement. I'm aware that not everybody is from, well, Canada or from the United States, so I will perhaps take it easy or maybe even identify some things that maybe we all can pick up from different areas in the world.
Thank you very much, Mike. Next on our list is the watcher, and that's Lou Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster of the day, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world. As watcher, that is the equivalent of the body language monitor in our brick and mortar clubs. I will be looking for folks making effective and, I guess I'll say, reasonable use of their lighting and their camera angle and simply their arm movements, facial expressions, etc., as well as what folks use for, in their speeches, any kind of props and presentations. Now, as watcher, I will ask that all of you please do not watch me because I have had meetings since my 5 p.m. going till 9 p.m., so I will be eating dinner while I'm watching all of you. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Lou. Our next helper is our vote counter, and that's Deborah Carr. You'll need to unmute, Deborah. Yep.
I'm sorry, I was taking notes. I am your vote counter for tonight, so if you'll make sure that all the votes for best speaker, best evaluator, and table topics, whoever you choose, are sent right to me. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Deborah. Okay, the chat monitor who will be keeping an eye on all our chat is Marili.
Hi, I'm the chat moderator today, and there are some interesting things going on, particularly with the mapping of the speaker and evaluator. It started with the grumbling and grinding, and it is going towards the well-oiled machine. So hope everyone is aware who is evaluating whom. So that's the fine thing. So keep putting stuff in the chat monitor, fun stuff, info stuff, and good feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marili. That's our great team that are going to help us have a quality meeting. So thank you very much indeed. There's been some discussion on the order of the speakers and the evaluators. George Marshall will be speaker number 1, and he'll be evaluated by David Carr. Speaker 2 will be Dag Mara, evaluated by Jim Barber, and Graham will be speaker number 3, and he'll be evaluated by Lois. So all I've got to do now is introduce our speakers, and we love our prepared speakers. And our first speaker is George Marshall, who is presenting a speech from the Presentation Mastery Level 1, Mastering Fundamentals, the Icebreaker. Title of the speech is Pathways, Distinguished Club Program. And the introduction is for George, 17th Icebreaker. He will take on a new identity, the Pathways DCP program, and introduce himself. The speech is 4 to 6 minutes. And as I said, David Carr is the evaluator. Please welcome George.
Thank you. I requested 5 to 7, please.
5 to 7. Jim, if
Thank
you
you.
can just rectify that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. I am the Distinguished Club Program. Yes, I know I don't look like a report, but when you've done 17 icebreakers, you got to get creative, okay? What I thought I would do is explain how Pathways ties into the Distinguished Club Program. I know many of you are in clubs where you are justly proud of some great achievements. I know there's some clubs here that earn President Distinguished every year. Mine certainly does. How does Pathways affect it? Well, some of you are in districts that already are on Pathways, and as of May 15th, every club in the world, including online clubs like Online Presenters, will also be on Pathways. So let's just do a brief review of the Pathways program, of the DCP program, and how Pathways ties into it. I'm going to show you some slides here. Can everyone see the DCP slide? Great. I'll take your silence for a yes. Very, very quick review. We've got the DCP program with the familiar 6 goals. We're ignoring the other 4 goals, membership, etc., because they do not change with Pathways. In our traditional program, one goal is 2 CCs, which by the way is 10 speeches, as I noted off to the right. The second goal is 2 more CCs. Third goal is an advanced communicator of any type. Fourth is another advanced communicator. Each of these are about 10 speeches, although, as you know, some of them are slightly more than 10. And then there's the last 2, the leadership goals. What are the Pathways DCP goals? Well, since it's a new program and we don't have CCs, we have level 1, 3s, 4s, and 5s. That's what we have. You earn 1 goal with 4 level 1s, and each level 1 takes about 4 speeches. You earn a second goal with 2 level 2s, and each level 2 takes 3 speeches. A third goal is 2 more level 2s, again, still 3 speeches. Fourth goal, level 3s. Now, here we get a little variability, but let's say on average, it'll be 3 speeches for each level 3, be 2 speeches for each level 4, and 3 speeches for each level 5. These are not necessarily just speeches. As you'll see in a moment, things change. In particular, the level 4s and level 5s can be rather involved projects. For example, one level 5 project is the high performance leadership project. So you can see that's a lot different than simply doing a speech. In fact, it's doing 2 speeches, isn't it? How would that work together? During the transition period, which is from the time that all clubs are on Pathways until June 2020, we have transition period goals, which means we can select any 6 of the 12 possible goals. That's 6 goals that can come from the traditional program, 6 goals that can come from the Pathways program. It's not a matter of you pick one and they're all come from one group or the other. They can be interchanged. I'm going to show you an example of that. For the transition, we simply have 12 possible ways to earn the 6 educational goals. Let's take an example for a mythical club. In this club, one goal was earned with 2 CCs. The second goal was earned when other members did 4 level 1s. The third goal was earned when a member did an advanced communicator from the traditional program. Fourth goal, someone else did an advanced communicator. The 5th goal was earned when a couple of members did a level 2, and a 6th goal was earned when a couple of members did a level 3. So you can see we didn't have to pick one or the other. We're totally accommodating what the actual members are doing. If they're working in the traditional program, they can earn awards. If they're earning in pathways, they can earn awards. One member can even, if they're energetic, earn goals in both programs simultaneously. So in that particular way, we met, this club met their 6 goals with a combination of traditional awards and the pathways. Let me give you an actual concrete example. This is Club Star Search 5067, my home club for the last 15 years. And this is today's achievements. This club normally does very, very well. I think we're President's Distinguished the last 13 or 14 years right now. Anyway, look at what has happened with our current program. Now, membership, training, and administration are not affected by which program you're on, so we'll gray those out. Look at the traditional programs, the first 6 goals. You can see that 2 members have earned a CC, that's a goal. 1 member's earned a leadership, that's a goal, and another member's earned a leadership, that's another goal. On the pathway side, since we've been in pathways for over a year, we are working on both simultaneously. So 4 members have earned a level 1, that gets a goal. 2 members have earned a level 2, that's a goal. 2 more members earned a level 2, that's another goal. And 1 member has earned a level 5. So there's 4. So altogether, look what's happened here. This club has earned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 educational goals. Well, gosh, I'm sorry, Star Search, you only get to pick 6 of them. But this club has clearly achieved all of their educational goals, haven't they? Now let's take a different example with awards, because I've heard some VPEs say, is Pathways going to make it hard for my club to be distinguished again? Not really. Let's take a mythical example. Let's say 4 members join and they do 10 speeches each last year. Now from last year on the traditional program, those 10 speeches would earn them, that each earn a CC. So goal 1, we got 4 members, they're each going to earn a CC. They'd earn the first goal, 2 CCs. They'd earn the second goal, 2 more CCs. So in all, those 4 members, by doing a grand total of 40 speeches, will have earned 2 DCP goals for the club. Fair enough? What happens if 4 members join a club on Pathways, and again, they do 10 speeches each, but they do them as Pathways goals? What does that look like? Under Pathways, those 10 speeches would be sufficient to earn a level 1 plus a level 2 plus a level 3. So each member is going to earn a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3. That's because level 1 is 4 speeches, level 2 is 3 speeches, level 3 is 3 speeches or projects, and they are mostly speeches at that point. So we're going to earn the goal P1 with 4 level 1s. Remember, we have 4 members that just joined. We're going to earn the goal P2 because that's level 2. We're also going to earn goal P3, 2 more level 2s. Again, 4 total people earned a level 2. And we're also going to earn goal P4, which is 2 level 3s, and there's 2 level 3s left over. So in all, 4 DCP goals were earned. 4 members in a traditional program earned 2 goals. 4 members under Pathways earned 4 goals. VPEs, I think you're in good shape. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, George. You know all about DCPs now, so thanks for informing us. Our next speaker is Dagmara, and her speech is a 5 to 7 minute speech, be evaluated by Jim Barber, and the title is, What Are the Signs That a Woman is Interested in You? Sounds like an interesting title. How can you tell if a woman likes you? I'm going to provide an extensive list of signals that a woman sends when she is into you. Please welcome Dagmara.
do you know she's into me? That's probably the most asked question by men ever. And there is so much confusion about mating, dating, courtship. For example, he thinks she's into him. But then she's like, can we just stay friends? Friends. He feels rejected. He feels betrayed. He's blaming her and calling her a tease. So much drama. And she's just like, I was just being nice. So let's try to figure out what are the nonverbal and verbal communication signs that she's actually into you. How about we start with nonverbal communication? Smile. You probably think that this is the sign, right? No. No. That's the most confusing thing ever. And you should be very careful with a smile. Smile can literally means everything. For example, this nervous smile when you keep embarrassing yourself on a first date, or when you ask questions like, what's your age? What's your weight? Maybe some math questions that are not necessary at the first date. That's not a good sign. Also, if she's smiling in a nice, sincere way, it could mean so many things. For example, she might treat you like a friend, or she might just be trying to be polite. According to research, women smile more than men because they are socially expected to do that. Women that are smiley, they are perceived as more agreeable, more cooperative, more pleasant, and they are not perceived as a threat, as a competition for a man. So there are literally 1,000 reasons for which she could be smiling. Don't put a bet on that. The thing that you should be really looking at is the eye contact. It's happening here. She might drop it for a while, for 3 to 5 seconds. She might bend her head left or right, touch her hair, touch her chin. The look could be dreamy. The look could be assessing you, but it will be there. And if you got it, keep what you're doing. You're on the right track. Okay, the second thing, open body position, open space position. For example, when she's grasping nervously a bag on a first date, and she starts liking you, she might put this bag away. It's just like invitation. I'm more approachable now. So take it as a good sign. Okay, let's recap the nonverbal communication. Look, bending left and right. Hair, chin. Might be smiling, but if she's Russian, no smile. Open space body position, and open space position. Now let's go to the verbal communication. Her voice will be soft and sweet. She might say something like, a truck racing, that's fascinating. You got it, right? Okay, so since we talk about hobbies, the most weird hobby you have, the better. If you have a weird or quirky hobby, like let's say truck racing, and she still wants to join you, to be just physically close to you, that means the world. That means she's really into you. So let's wrap it up. Nonverbal, verbal communication, all together. Oh, so your hobby is truck racing. That's fascinating. When I was a little girl, I always dreamt about something exciting and adventurous. So how about you teach me about this truck racing? You saw that? Congratulations. You just got yourself a girlfriend. Fellow Toastmasters,
thank you, Dagmara. I hope you fellas all took notice of what to look for now. Thanks to Dagmara. Okay, thank you very much. Our next speech is from Graham, and he's speaking from the presentation mastery. The title of the speech is Hit Them with a Hook. The evaluator is Lois Margolin. Speech is 5 to 7 minutes. And Graham is starting his third path today, presentation mastery, but rather than an icebreaker, which is scheduled for another club, he will be presenting a training-related speech. After he gets evaluation from Lois, he will present it again at a later meeting based on her suggestions. Please welcome Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I knew I should have taken up truck racing. That's what my problem has been all this time. On a more serious note, a question, if I may. A hand show would be nice. How many people here have presented a session and the audience, or at least some members of the audience, have walked away with a message, but not quite the one that you intended? Yeah, I think we've all been there. Whose fault is that? Is there, in fact, a fault at all? That's an interesting question. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Some years ago, I went and saw a Toastmasters conference, and Charlie Starrett, DTM, who is international board member, was presenting on goal setting and on self-talk. At least I think that's what he was talking about, because the story that he told to make the point was about his health and about his desire to lose weight. And he said that, of course, it's not possible for you to simply use willpower to put away chocolates and sweet foods and things like that. You actually need to adapt. You need to become a man who does not eat chocolate. You have to be a man who does exercise every day. You have to build these into yourself with positive affirmations rather than just being negative and pushing things away. That's the story that I took away from Charlie's presentation. But I'm not entirely sure that that was the story, or at least the message, that Charlie wanted me to take away. I think what Charlie wanted me to take away was to take something wider than that it was all about positive affirmation, that it was all about self-talk. But of course, the fact that I have spent most of my adult life fluctuating between a reasonable weight and a not reasonable weight, I might tell you, and I am currently on my downward trajectory once again, at least I hope so, that's the message that I took away. And that's an interesting thing. When you are training, when you are presenting, when you are talking to an audience, you will have a message. If you don't have a message, then quite frankly, all you're doing is simply flapping your gums, and that is a waste of your time and your audience's. So you'll have a message. But how do you ensure that the message gets through to your audience? Well, you can use facts and figures, and you can give all the details you like. But who here has been to a presentation recently which has been full of facts and figures and death by PowerPoint and all the slides with all of the information and data and tables and charts, and you walk out of there and you don't remember a thing about what was being said? Been there? Yeah, I think most of us have. Somebody pointed out recently to me that the way that we learn is not by facts and figures. The way that we learn is by stories which contain facts and figures. Let me give you another example. meeting that I was at recently, there was a relatively new Toastmaster. I think he was giving his number 2 speech. And he wanted to make the point that you can't look at the outside of people. You can't just look at people and make a judgment on them. He told a story about a young girl who was watching a balloon seller in his native India. And this balloon seller was filling balloons with helium and handing them out. And of course, one of them let go, and it was a blue balloon, and it went right up into the sky. And the little girl was fascinated. And he was talking to us after that, and we said, what color balloon would you like? She said, I'd like a blue balloon. And he said, oh, I actually haven't got any blue balloons left. How about one of these pink balloons? So he fills a pink balloon, hands it to her, and she unfortunately doesn't grab it, and it goes up into the sky. And she goes, oh, that one goes up as well. I thought it was only the blue ones that went up into the sky. And he looked at her and thought for a moment and says, you're thinking that it's the outside that makes the balloon go up. No, it's what's inside that matters. That's what makes us rise into the sky. Well, it was a lovely story, and it made the point beautifully. But had he just talked about the fact that, we can't look at that external things, we have to make, decisions based on what's inside, then, that would have been nice and it would have been fine, but I would have forgotten about it after I walked out of the meeting. But every time I see a balloon from this point forward, I'm going to think to myself, it's not the color, it's not the shape, it's what's inside that makes that balloon what it is. And so that's what we have to do, ladies and gentlemen, as speakers, as trainers. We have to wrap our message up into stories, all of which is fine, except we now get back to the point that I began with. What happens when your audience takes away from your speech, from your presentation, from your training session, something that wasn't what you intended, or at least they don't take away what you did intend them to take away? Well, stories are good. Stories are great, but we have to tie the story directly to the point that we were making. I spoke at the beginning of this presentation about 5 minutes ago and asked how many of us have had that situation where people have walked away with a different message. That's almost certainly because the message giver didn't tie that story back to the point. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to be making a presentation, if you're going to be telling a story, if you've got information that you really want your audience to get across, you not only have to tell them the information, you have to wrap it in a package that makes it easy for them to remember, but then you have to remind them at the end what it is that you have said. Remember the old tell them what you're going to tell them and tell them what you've told them? It's trite, but it works. We remember that which we hear first, we remember that which we hear last, and we remember stories. So if the stories in the middle are what reminds us of the beginning and the end, then we will walk away, the audience will walk away with what we want them to do. I asked, is it your fault? Is it the audience's fault? Quite frankly, I don't think there is a fault, but the only suggestion I can do is to give you something that comes from music. And that is an old saying from Tin Pan Alley: if you want to grab people, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to hit them with a hook. In musical terms, that's the chorus. That's the bit where people sing along. In speech terms, your message has to be reinforced, but it has to be included as part of your story. Hit them with a hook, ladies and gentlemen, and you'll reel them into your point of view. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Graham. Well said. Mr. Timer, did all our speakers qualify?
Well, actually, only 2 of our speakers qualified, Mr. Toastmaster. Toastmaster George Marshall requested 5 to 7. That was even, and went for 8:27. So he does not qualify. There's a 30-second deviation at the beginning or the end to qualify. He went over the 7.5. Anyway, Toastmaster Dagmara requested 5 to 7, spoke for 5:56. Very nice. Toastmaster Graham, 5 to 7 requested, 6:44. They both qualify, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Mr. Timer, and thank you very much for putting them in the chat so everybody can see. We really appreciate that. Next on our list is a bit of fun now because we have table topics, so please welcome Adrian.
Thank you. Our theme tonight is Easter. And many people have different definitions of what Easter is. It is known as the Festival of a Star, who is the goddess of spring and fertility. Michael, please tell us what you know about this Festival of a Star, the goddess of spring and fertility.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. I will conjure up from my great database of gods and goddesses a story about the goddess of nature and fertility. Let's see. Let's talk about springtime if we can, and the burgeoning that the gods and goddess bring to us here on Earth of the plants and the animals who are feeling in a spunky mood and beginning to enjoy the warmer seasons. The buds forming on the trees and the days warming, which invigorates us all, having us all want to go outside and enjoy the longer days and the warm sunshine. And although it snowed here in Pennsylvania today, by afternoon it was quite nice and sunny and warm. So when we look up in the sky, especially at night, and we see those stars twinkling, some of us have an idea that possibly those could be spirits beaming down on us, rays of warmth and love and caring. And when we walk under those and absorb those rays, not only from our soul, our sun, but those in the stars, we can imagine those as being the friendly countenance of gods and goddesses. And I'm certain that the spring goddess, the goddess of nature associated with Easter, is certainly looking down on us now and wishing us all a wonderful springtime. Madam
Wow.
Table Topics Master.
That was amazing. Of course, the fertility is where we get our eggs from. That's where the Easter egg comes from. Now, to another group of people, Easter means something else. To Jewish people, it's known as the Passover. Lou Brown, could you tell us what you know about this or what you think of it, if anything at all?
Madam Table Topics Master, I know nothing about the Jewish interpretation of Easter. Sorry. Other than the fact that it's celebrated and called Passover. With that in mind, I would like to talk a little bit about that whole Easter egg thing you just alluded to when you were speaking of Michael's speech in terms of the eggs representing fertility, because the minute you mentioned it, it immediately brought to my own mind being a child and being involved in egg decorating. How many of you have done egg decorating as a kid? I can't be that old. There must be some of you. Yes, wonderful. And what was really amazing about it is the fact that even though I, like Graham before he started to lose weight, really enjoyed food, loved eating eggs in whatever form they came in. However, I was really fascinated with just the decorating of the eggs. And I remember our family taking advantage of all of those different gimmicks that came about. They were shown on TV, they were shown in the stores. You could buy all of these different decorating gizmos. There was one that was like almost like a stencil. You put an egg on some kind of holder and a pencil would go around it and draw a pattern of some sort. There was another one where you would dip eggs in various colored liquids and it would get the egg in various tie-dye sorts of colors. And there were others who, of course, was literally like taking a paintbrush and painting things on eggs. It was just fascinating for, I think, one main reason as I look back on it, and that is because it brought the family together. And that's what I loved about Easter, as well as every holiday that came along, was it was a time for the family to get together and enjoy doing something together. And of course, with Easter, we had the egg decorating, we had dinner, we had opening the Easter baskets and all that stuff. But it was, just a really great time for family to be together and do something together. So it brings back wonderful childhood memories. Kind of a faux pas there, huh? Thank you, Madam Topics Master.
Why, thank you. That is awesome. Most people don't know that it originated as a pagan holiday. However, to a different group of people, to the Christian group of people, they see it as the resurrection. Tell us about your experience with the resurrection and the tradition in your family around this Christian holiday. Rachel.
Okay, so in my family, we celebrate Christianity. We're Catholic, and so for the last 40 days, we've been giving up something. So in my house, we gave up sweets and chocolate, and when the resurrection came yesterday, we were able to fill our children's baskets, who have been running around behind me, with different types of candy, including the chocolate. But what's more important to us is the family time. So we're celebrating the rebirth of Christ. He's risen for us, and that's more what we celebrate. As a child growing up, my father's from South America, and my mom is from a little town in Kentucky. So meshing those two cultures together, Easter meant more as far as the religious aspect in our family. And as I've grown older and my kids have grown older, it's unfortunate that I see there's a lot more socialization of the marketing and the need to fill baskets with candy. And I really hope, as I continue the tradition of my family, that we do less of the candy and more of the focusing of the resurrection, of the new life, of, being able to celebrate each other and celebrate the family. So, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you. And for our last one, I'm going to direct this one to someone international. Because we celebrate holidays in the United States, it's not always the same thing in other parts of the country. So I am curious to know, what do you do on Easter morally?
You're still muted, Murali.
Okay. I love all the festivals, regardless of the religion, regardless of the beliefs, regardless of the cause, whether it is happy or sad, whether it is celebration or mourning. One thing is common, the fun part, the food. Everything involves food. That is the fun thing, lighter thing. But going into the serious thing, what is the common thread among the functions? It is happiness, bringing people together, creating memories, enhancing memories, reliving the memories. That is the most important thing. Whether it is a happy festival or a sad mourning occasion. Even the sad mourning occasion involves more of the togetherness, because people come together, friends, relatives, they all come together and share the grief. That is more important for than the happier occasion. So there also, if you see that, for example, Christmas, everyone enjoys, but what is the root cause of the Christmas? It is a sad occasion. The Christ is gone. Then come back, the resurrection is the new year. That is also a celebration. So regardless of the religion, faith, or cause, I enjoy all types of festivities, all types of occasions, for the simple reason it brings people together, it creates memories, it relieves memories. Thank you, Table Topics Master.
Thank you so much, everyone, for participating in this segment. And I'm going to turn it back over to our Toastmaster of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adrienne. What great questions and what great responses. Some really in-depth conversation there. Mr. timer. Do we have some times? Do they all qualify? The table topic
Absolutely,
speakers?
Mr. Toastmaster. Toastmaster Michael spoke for 142. Toastmaster Lou Brown, 218. Toastmaster Rachel, 144. And Toastmaster Morali, 127. They do all qualify. Vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. Timer. If you can privately send to our vote counter, which is Deborah Carr, and if you haven't voted for the speakers, please send your best speaker to Deborah anonymously. Okay, now comes our evaluations, and our first evaluator is David Carr, who will evaluate George Marshall. Please welcome David.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. So fellow online presenters, future online presenters, and especially George. George, this was a great informative speech. It was a very good educational speech about pathways. But was it an icebreaker? Well, I did hear you. You said you've given so many icebreakers over the year. You're a little sick of giving icebreakers. And also you're a DTM. The joke is that DTM means don't time me. Well, you showed us that as well today, right? So we got to give you a little bit of a hard time. So you said, having given so many icebreakers, I got to have a little fun with this. I got to be creative. And what I expected you were going to do then, that I would have accepted as more of an icebreaker, was you saying, I am an educational program and I am horribly misunderstood and I have a terrible complex about being misunderstood and I want to tell you about the real me. If you had managed to pull the whole thing off in first person, then maybe we could count that as an icebreaker. I think we'll still give you credit for it because Toastmasters just kind of tend to give you credit for things as you go along. But also as a DTM and somebody who is showing the value of the Pathways program, maybe you should have shown us how it's done, how an icebreaker works in the Pathways world. So anyways, I had to get that out of the way. And the one other thing I'll knock you on is the projector screen in the back of you is a little bit of clutter, and I can't preach too much about a cluttered office, but it looks like it's there for a purpose, and it's it's not showing us anything. Maybe it's hiding something. Maybe there's a dead body behind there. But on the actual substance of your speech, you gave us a very good tour through the intricacies of this program, through how things are going to be counted, a lot of questions that people are asking and wondering about. We hear about this Pathways, it sounds sort of good, it sounds sort of different, but how exactly is this going to work? And you gave us good examples along the way. I think probably the strongest thing there was using the example of your home club and how things added up for them, and they added up just fine to where that club is already in great states to be what President's Distinguished. I'm assuming you guys are going to nail it. So you told us, you showed us, you gave us very good examples along the way, showed how the traditional accomplishments can be combined with the Pathways accomplishments to make things work out. I did also want to mention that I thought your slides were very good, some of the builds with them in them, and I don't know whether that's something that you crafted or whether that's a standard presentation. Even if it was a standard presentation, you did a good job of pushing the buttons. And so it was a good dynamic way of presenting. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Dave, for that well-rounded evaluation. Next evaluator is Jim Barber, who evaluated Dagmar as a deck. So, Jim Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. My fellow Toastmasters, our most welcome guests this evening, and especially Toastmaster Dagmara. This was presentation number 5, project number 5 from the Competent Communicator Manual, Your Body Speaks, with the wonderful title of What Are the Signs That a Woman is Interested in You? In our evaluations, we're not supposed to evaluate the content of a presentation. If I were to do that, I would ask, oh, I wish that you were around back when I was single. This was wonderful information, but I'm married now, so it does me no good at all. I'll simply go with the presentation portion. They are wonderful things to say. First of all, your topic choice. This was great. Your body speaks. You're supposed to pick a topic where you demonstrate, you communicate your information through body language. And so you chose one of the signs that a woman is interested in you. And of course, you talked a great deal about nonverbal communication. And you described this. You showed the touching of the hair and the looking at sexily and that sort of thing. And that worked so well for this topic. So it was a great choice. Your gestures are natural, and what I like is they're congruent with what you're saying. You didn't do as some people do, where they'll talk about something and then they'll do the gesture. And it's slightly out of sync and it's obvious that it's planned. Your gestures were an extension of what you were saying, and that was done so well. And of course, as I just said, you demonstrated, that's what I really liked. You demonstrated the nonverbal communications that you were talking about. You didn't simply talk about them, you showed us, and you showed us how effectively it works. And I think you got all of our attention by doing that. I have a couple of suggestions for you, and I'll admit that these are courtesy. They're the same thing that Roger told me when he evaluated me. So I'm just passing them on because they apply here as well. A couple of times, especially at the beginning, your gestures weren't high enough. Right now, I'm gesturing, but you can't really see it. All you can see is my fingertips. You need to make sure that your gestures come a little bit higher so that they're beside your face. You did that towards the end of the presentation, but you didn't do it as much at the beginning. The other thing, and again, Roger mentioned this, is that it's possible because of bandwidth problems to make your gestures too fast and they become jerky or vague and they're hard to see. You need to slow down a little bit so that there's not a problem with picking you up through the bandwidth. But I enjoyed both the content and the presentation of your content, and I'm looking forward to your next presentation. Thank you, Mr. General Toastmaster, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Jim. Our next evaluator is Lois Margolin, and she will evaluate Graham Cairns. Please welcome Lois.
Thank you, Toastmaster Scott, my fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests, and especially Graham. First off, Graham, thank you so much for stepping up to the plate and giving us a speech when one wasn't planned. It was an interesting speech, though I have to say there were a couple of points that I didn't get right away, but the balloon story absolutely touched me. I thought that was fabulous, and you're right, I will remember that balloon story for many years to come. And the reason I remember it is exactly what you said. You had a great point. I don't know if I would actually make the statement that you're just flapping your gums if you don't have a message. Maybe tone that down a little bit for some people. They might get insulted. But here's where the meat of my evaluation is going to come in. I would have renamed this speech, Data, Tables, and Charts. Oh no. And the reason why I would have done that is because that's what you're telling us, is don't just come straight out and give us data, tables, and charts, because that's not going to work. Take those two stories, because they are two good stories. Take them and compare them and say, my fellow Toastmasters, I'm going to give you two stories. And after this, I want you to tell me which one you are going to remember. The purpose of both stories is that what is inside of us makes us rise. Then tell the story of the guru who's doing goal setting and self-talk, and talk around in circles, because that's basically what he did. Then tell us the balloon story. And then very quietly ask, which one spoke to you? And then ask him, was it the first one or was it the second? And most people are going to say the second. Now you can give your speech about why is that? because we connect with stories. That's who we are. We will remember stories. We will be able to repeat stories. That's what we've done since biblical times, even when Easter started. Note that, Adrian. You can then come back and say, data, tables, and charts, oh no. But you know what? If you do it right, you can put data, tables, and charts in your speech. The balloon man could have added some science in there to explain how helium works and what the percentage is of helium inside that balloon to actually give it some science. So you can have data, tables, and charts. Oh, yes, if you do it right, if you wrap it in stories, because after all, that's what we're trying to do, is send our message. And we want to make sure that people grab that message and understand what it is that we're saying. Great job. I know you're going to be using this evaluation in future. And I hope that your speech goes great. I loved your stories, and I think it's going to be a great one on your next one. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Lois. 3 great evaluations. Mr. Timer, how did we go? Did they all qualify?
Mr. Toastmaster, all of our evaluators did qualify. Toastmaster Carr spoke for 3 minutes, 16 seconds. Toastmaster Barber, 3 minutes, 7 seconds. And Toastmaster Margolin, 2 minutes, 44 seconds. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. Excellent. If you could put your votes to Deborah Carr precisely, so it's all hush, hush, hush. We don't know to see the results till the end. And on that note, we will go to our reports. And our first report is from the grammarian. Can we have the report from the grammarian, please?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. I carefully listened, and we didn't do too bad. I didn't notice any glaring errors. We did use a lot of I guesses, and I noticed that a lot of our sentences went on and but and on. And anyway, that seemed to be kind of a universal thing. But Dagmara, I did notice that your speech, you had a very distinctive, very short, you ended your sentence and went on. So that kind of contrasted with all the ands. Anyway, we heard about grumbling and grinding. Looking at you, Morelli, that was pretty good. We had things about hit them with a hook and then reel them into your point of view. So we had a lot of interesting word choices. I did notice that we were a little bit lazy in our language. Sometimes we combine different words together. Gotta, for example, instead of got to, something I need to work on, along with that last that I just said. Michael, we had a spooky word. And of course, David Carr, I now learned that DTM stands for Don't Time Me. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much, Mike. Much appreciated. Now we go to the watcher. Lou, what did you say?
Lou actually had to leave.
Did he? Okay.
He left his report in the chat. Since we're short on time, maybe we should just let people read it afterwards.
Okay, that would be fine. Thank you, David. Next, the Arcouter, John.
Yes, that was an exciting meeting. It was quite informative because I've heard stories about Easter and about Easter speech fillers. And I'm happy to hear, or that I've heard, that there was minimal amount of speech fillers. One of the speakers that exceeded the magical 5, I will not mention the name. If you're interested to know how many speech fillers you had, feel free to message me privately and I will share the information. The rest of the speakers were quite amazing. I'm really excited to be part of this club because it's a pleasure listening to people speak, because I do tend to club hop in my district, and it is sometimes difficult to pay attention when the speech fillers appear, especially outside of Toastmasters. And one of the reasons why I love Toastmasters is because this is a friendly environment where we help each other out. And I would like to use the closing message that a friend of mine and a mentor shared with me when I first started in public speaking on speech fillers. He told me, remember this acronym, it's called CYM. If you don't know what to say, close your mouth. Mr. Toastmaster?
Thank you. Thank you very much, John. And now we go to the chat monitor, Marili.
In the interest of time, I will keep it very brief. The chat is very vibrant. Let us continue to keep the chat informative, feedback, and fun. Thank you, Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Marili. Now, our general evaluator was Rolando.
Thank you, Scott. Very informative speeches and spectacular meeting. I will echo what John and Merle just said. Very nice speeches and table topics, wonderful table topics question about Easter. Good evaluations using the Oreo cookie method. And the interest of time, the only thing that I can think we can improve on is time. I'm thinking that maybe we should try to select the speakers before the meetings, make sure that we have all our speakers lined up and all our evaluators so we can save time. But besides that, everything went well. I enjoyed the meeting. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rolando. Thank you very much for that evaluation. Now I'll hand the meeting back to our president. Please welcome David Carr.
All right. Thank you very much, Scott. Great job this evening. Deborah Carr, you had something you wanted to say?
Do you want the votes?
Oh,
sorry,
yes, we should know who the...
Hey, I set the meeting counting, so I want to give the vote.
Sorry.
So easy to forget me. Trust me, it's not the first time. The speaker for tonight, drum roll, is Dagmara.
Yay.
Yay!
Yay! The evaluator is Jim. Yay! And our table topics is our wonderful guest, Michael.
Yay. Thank you, Deborah.
Well, that sounds like a good occasion to get a little bit of feedback from Michael, and we'll ask for our other guests. We are running a little bit past 9 o'clock, but Michael, tell us briefly, what did you think of this meeting?
I thought it was fabulous. Thank you. And it was great. I use Zoom to support our own club. And so this was very comfortable for me, although I couldn't put in my custom background slide because I guess this doesn't allow it. But anyway, I really enjoyed it. Everyone was fun and I felt very comfortable here. It seems like a great group.
All right. Well, we hope you come back. And Rachel, we get a little feedback from you as well.
I thought it was a great meeting. It's a great group of people, and I like the dynamic of the group. So the speeches were different than what I normally hear in my club. So, and because the club is a elevated club and it's for advanced Toastmasters, it makes it a lot better for me to be able to grow in my skills. So great group of people, and I really enjoyed it.
All right. Well, again, we help you come back. So regarding timing, I think we did have 4 table topic speeches tonight. I think we should probably stick to 3 as our standard, and you can go to 4 or 5 if we only have 2 speakers or if something else is short. But and I guess in general, there's always, if things aren't perfectly organized, then it's very easy for the dominoes to fall and for us to wind up going a few minutes over. We're not awful tonight. We're not awful. We've done worse. So, yeah, that's my defense, and I'm sticking to it.
Good one, either. Well, I just want to say that now that it's spring, we should all think about cleaning house and maybe the Senate too.
All right. We gotta watch it around politics. We don't always know who's in the audience, but. But I might be on board with you there, Jim. Anyway, does anybody else have something we need to bring up before we break? Otherwise, I'm going to pester you to sign up for next week. Certainly, if you haven't taken a role for next week, we would love to have you back and help us fill the agenda. But I can follow up on that. Any other business?
Well, I think I got it all.
as I say, if anybody wants to be VP of membership next year, talk to Lois. Otherwise, I'm not going to let her go. Unless she's going to find her own replacement. I'm sorry?
I was just asking Mike what animal that is in the front of him. It has a huge tail, whatever it is.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, that's a cat.
Okay.
She just get a little curious.
All right. Well, good night, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Good night.
Good night.
See you next week.
Great meeting.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.